let's talk about round two, which is performance. And within performance, I'm going to talk about overall power delivery of the Iron 883. But I also want to tackle this in more of a safety sense. I want to talk about braking power and as well as its performance on the highway, because lately I have been doing a little bit more highway riding, and I realize that's kind of the location where your performance of the motorcycle impacts you the most. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click that subscribe button and comment away, because I have restarted my monthly giveaway, and the only way you can qualify is if you comment below on any of my videos within that month. So let's get right to it.
Round two, fight.
So the power delivery of the Iron 883, it is an 883cc bike, hence the name 883. It gives you about 48 to 49 base horsepower. I mean, they don't really display that, but some tests that people did online kind of showed around 48 to 49 horsepower. And to match that, it's about 54 foot-pounds of torque. And both stats come at 3,000 RPM. So what does that mean to you? Well, I can tell you that with that kind of spec and about 560-pound weight, it has a really good low-end torque. So a lot of your torque and power comes early on. And then what happens is it just dives off after about 5,500 RPM. So you're kind of playing in between the 2,500 to 4,000 RPM. That's kind of the sweet spot. I really like staying on around 3,000 just because that's where the engine starts roaring and you'll feel a little bit cool on the street. But it is a 5-speed bike, and you will go through those 5 speeds relatively quickly, especially when you're getting up to speed to merge into the highway. I usually find myself like on the 4th or even the 5th gear by the time I enter the highway at around 110 kilometers per hour. And then after that, you're on 5 the whole time. So if you expect yourself to go to like 180 kilometers per hour, you're staying on that 1 gear the whole way up. And like I said, because the torque and the horsepower dies off around 5,500, it takes a while for you to get up to speed. So for me, power delivery wise, it was like pretty average from all the bikes that I've had the chance to ride. It definitely gives you more oomph than, you know, the 250cc bike that I rode during my MSF course. And as a 15-month-old rider with a bit more experience, I would say the Iron 883 still has a lot to give me the smiles on the road. But going into turns on a motorcycle, I think is more exciting than going fast on a straightaway. Like I know all the sport bike guys won't agree to this, but for the Iron 883, because it has really shitty lean angle, which is about 27 and 28 degrees, you really have to like choose your lanes wisely when you're going into a sharp corner at certain speeds. And it's a lot of fun. It gives you a lot of thrill. I can really tell you that you have a lot of room to grow on the Iron 883, but in terms of performance, it's average. So you can be a new rider riding this, or you can be a very experienced rider going on to this and still have fun, or at least find a way to have fun. In terms of braking power, it is a single disc dual piston brake in the front. For the Iron 883, I had a couple close calls where I was actually quite lucky that I had planned my exit path, because there's certain situations I didn't feel like I had enough braking distance because the front brake was sliding on me. I mean, if you've driven a car, you know the feeling I'm talking about, where you're applying the brake and you're still kind of moving and you're braking it harder. And you know if you go any harder than that, you're going to end up locking your brakes, and you want to avoid that, especially on a motorcycle. For me, I would say the braking distance on the Iron 883 is kind of poor, and really comes down to the rider. Like for me, because I'm not racing with the bike and going at extreme speeds well above the recommended speed of the road, I would say I'm still okay using the brakes, but I kind of wish I had better braking power for sure. And then lastly, let's talk about the highway. I think I already touched on it when I was talking about acceleration, but really it comes down to having 5 gears and not enough higher end power for the Iron 883. Now you can definitely mod it to have that. Like I said, I'm talking about only the stock version of the 883 and not the modded version. So in terms of safety on the highway, I would say it's okay on the highway. And if you want to watch it in detail, I do have a video about that I will link below. But I would say after riding bigger and faster motorcycles, I can tell you, I kind of wish I had a little bit more juice on the Iron 883, especially after about 60 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour, because I do find myself at that point, I'm working harder to get up higher speeds, and it takes me a little bit longer to achieve those speeds compared to if I was on the Fat Bob or the Softail Slim. The displacement of those motorcycles is definitely double the 883, but what I'm saying is, as a rider, I felt more safe on the bigger bikes than the 883. So it takes a little bit of planning in your head and figuring out which lane to choose to ride on the highway, but in terms of safety, I would say it's kind of like on the low end of acceptable for me. So if I group everything together for performance, I think I'm gonna give the Iron 883 5 out of 10.
Get over here! Oh! Sky wins flawless victory.
Only because of the safety factor. It is basically on my acceptable measure of what I think is enough power for the motorcycle to be on the highway. Anything lower than that, I think I would feel very uneasy, especially if I can't get up to speed quick enough to get out of harm's way on the highway. I know there's going to be guys who's going to think that I was going to give the Iron 83 a lot of higher points, but to me as a motorcycle in general, I think 5 out of 10 is acceptable for the 883. The next round that we're going to talk about will be style. And for that discussion, I'm going to rope in the last category as well, which is the skills required for the rider to fully enjoy that motorcycle.